by the clerk. All right, going to call this meeting to order. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper,
Here.
Councilmember Toll,
Here.
Councilmember Smith is absent, Councilmember Fitzgerald,
Here.
Councilmember Roberts,
Here.
Councilmember Clark,
Here.
Councilmember Palumbi,
Here.
Councilmember Graves.
Present.
Thank you. The Pledge of Allegiance this evening will be led by Councilmember Saper. Little changes. All right, next up is the approval of agenda, but I'm going to remove one item. I'm going to remove the item, the resolution appreciation for Councilmember Anna Palumbi to the mayor's comments at the end. So there we go. Is there a motion to approve an amended agenda?
Move to approve the amended agenda?
Okay, is there further? Councilmember Saper.
And I'd like to pull item 10 from the consent agenda.
Okay, we will remove 10, and that'll be the first item on the regular agenda. All right, sorry. Further, Councilmember Graves.
I was just going to move to approve the amended agenda.
Perfect. I was going to say we're running
Second.
out of items here.
Second.
Perfect. There's a motion to approve the amended agenda. Further discussion? Second. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? No. Motion carries. Tonight I'm going to get it right. Comments from the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak this evening? Mr. Clevenger, good evening.
Good evening, council. So I just wanted to touch on a couple of items. First of all, I wanted to express appreciation to Anna Palumbi for her service to our city, and enjoyed working with her when I was on the council. And I wanted to add my voice in support of item 16 for the parks sales tax at 25 cents, or 25-cent sales tax, quarter-cent sales tax for the parks, based on the recent court judgments and then the surtax reduction. They're definitely going to need that money, especially with getting River Forest Park. They got a lot of great programs and stuff in the community that they do. They've had, they're going to have the mayor's tree lighting coming up with live reindeer and reindeer rides. They're going to have, they had the Halloween party for the kids. So just something that I think that is good, that I'm glad that you all are looking at. Another thing, when you were talking about the financial presentation earlier at the work session, and that was a great presentation, glad that residents can go out and see that, is when you get I don't know when the KCATA bus transit contract is up for renewal again, but whenever it is, you need to take a look at it. The fixed route, they're having a lot of issues with drivers still. Last week, two routes, the 238 route that goes down Armour Road, the 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. bus didn't have a driver for 2 days straight. I know the flex route costs a lot more than the fixed route, but I think you should look at that, and I think that they should be fined, or they should be, they should be docked a certain amount on missed rides. Now, if it's somebody that just misses a bus because they didn't get down there in time, that's totally different. But if you don't have a driver for those routes, that's a service that you're paying for and that we're not receiving, and you guys are getting ripped off on it. So it's something that I think that you should look at. When I was on the council, I put in a clause to where any routes or stops couldn't be changed without written consent from the city. And I think that you all ought to at least heavily look at holding KCAT accountable for missed rides monetarily. And I think that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Further public comments? Oh, you faked me out there. You coming? All right. Oh.
I'm drunk already. Well, I want to.
Were you at Tito's before this? Okay.
I came to Tito's. I forgot that. I'm Liz Ryan, 2417 Erie. I want to pay a tribute to Anna. I hate to see her leave. She's a wonderful person. I like the way you present yourself at the council meetings. I never hear anything negative about Anna. And you're very professional. And I have to say, I watched you grow up from grade school high school and on to college as your sister. And you're every parent's dream. And I hate to see you leave, but bon voyage.
Thank you. Further public comments, please. Good evening.
I hope this is the time for me to do this. My name's Bert Knox at 1000 East 25th Avenue. I've been a resident there 27 years. I was in here 3 years ago, and I believe only 2 of you now are, if I did my research right, were here then, about a dog problem over there that has now, the items that I described at that time have now come to be. It is, people are running their dogs off a leash, and I've got multiple videos of the behavior that they're practicing. I have since gotten a dog for only a year, and now people come around with growling, snarling dogs around the perimeter of my house 7 to 8 times a day. I'm retired now. I try to rest. I got a heart condition, and I don't need that. And if you can't administer the property, if you went out from under it, let the school district handle it. So that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Further public comments. Okay, next item is, no more comments from the public, correct? All right, consent agenda, right? There we go. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? No. There we go, motion carries. What do we got? No, it's a resolution, I'll take that one. Now we're gonna go to number 10, funding agreement between the city of North Kansas City and SPS Companies, Inc. Resolution number 22088. Give me a look like I did the wrong thing there. Okay.
Item number 10, Mayor, by chance, do you want to just move that and have it discussed at the same time you discuss the other item?
The question might be slightly, I mean,
That-
they're slightly different things.
I don't have to do-
Who pulled this? That was you. Okay, we'll start with this. What was did you have a particular concern or question related to this item?
Help me hear it. I can't hear him.
This item, there's a cautionary tale here for any time we give or divert public money to private businesses. No matter what our personal or business interests, or simply the trust we have in any private company owned or simply operating in North Kansas City, we should be acutely aware that they can be acquired by another company or simply shut down operation here at any time. In fact, Cerner did both. They are not North Kansas City businesses. They are private businesses operating in North Kansas City. Whatever perceived public interest can be used to justify giving public money to private businesses, there can be no certainty of it actually benefiting the people who actually live and work in North Kansas City. And after all, benefiting the people who actually live and work in North Kansas City is our primary mission. We must do all we can to fulfill that mission. We are being asked to take a gamble with the people's money. We must do it as judiciously as possible. In this case, I support this item. It appears to be a benefit to the people who live and work here. But still, it's still a gamble with the people's money. And this is something we sometimes lose sight of.
Thank you. Further, Councilmember Smith.
So since this has been pulled, and this was a late addition, can you guys help me understand mechanistically what this does in relation to the, I believe it's item 14? How does this relate to that? If we approve this, are we obligated to approve 14? Like, how does this work?
No, not at all. If you approve this now at this particular point in time, in fact, the agreement, the funding agreement, candidly, if you read it real carefully, it contemplates the possibility that you may say no, but we, as a city, have already incurred expenses with bond counsel at Gilmore and Bell, Mr. Martin's here tonight, with our financial advisor, Mr. Webster, with Stiefel, Nicholas and Company, he's here tonight, as well as a little bit because there were a few questions that we had with Steve Sparks. He is not here tonight. I didn't figure there was a reason to bring him. But we need to be paid for those things, because just like when we do the bonds originally, we enter into, or before we do the bonds, when they apply for some kind of tax incentive, it's very typical that we get a funding agreement. This is not as much money as we typically get up front, but we did not feel like that it would justify some larger number, and we felt like that was appropriate. This all came together quickly yesterday, that we decided we needed to have this, and so that's why the agenda was amended to add this, and they immediately wire transferred to the city the $10,000 late yesterday afternoon, so the funds are sitting in our account, and it's, whether you pass it or not, I'm just letting you know that we still have expenses even before, whether you pass item, whatever it is, 14, I believe, is which one that you'll be actually talking about.
Sure.
This should be probably passed in any event.
Yeah, I mean, typically we see something like this, like number 10, we approve that, we go through the finding of facts, and Matt does his magic and brings a recommendation to us, like number 14, and so we typically see them on two different agendas. That's why I'm a little thrown, like, so to approve, that makes sense, to approve this, and then I guess we've already done the work to generate 14, now we're just getting paid back. Okay, that was.
Yes, except, as far as I know, I think all of the work essentially has been done, except there's a couple of estoppel agreements that have to be taken care of still, and we've tweaked them actually today. So there is still a little bit of work that's going to happen, but certainly not much at this stage.
All right, thank you. Further questions related specifically to the funding agreement?
Move to approve item 10.
Second.
Further questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Item 11, third amendment to the North Kansas City Destination Developers Tax Increment Financing Plan. Bill number 7722, ordinance number 9519.
Somebody. Okay, Tom.
Mr. Mayor,
Just
members
get one.
of the City Council, I'm going to try to make this very short. On August the 3rd of this year, you passed the Third Amendment to the TIF plan. As you will recall, subsequent to that action that you took in passing that ordinance, it was determined our county, the size had increased, and we are therefore covered by a different TIF organization, if you will, under state statute, and you had to reconstitute the TIF commission. So the new TIF commission met here a couple of weeks or so ago. They approved it. They've sent the Third Amendment to you. So that's what's in front of you this evening, is the Third Amendment to the TIF plan for One North. I would ask, however, what I sent out to you contains a legal description for Project Area 4 and 6 that, in fact, is a meets and bounds legal description, like you see a surveyor. Since then, not since I sent it out, but since you passed it last time, that legal description has now, have been platted, and now we have a plat. So in front of you, around the dais, each of you should have that Exhibit A. So I'm going to ask you if we can substitute Exhibit A with the accompanying drawings for the Exhibit A that went out with the packet. Okay? If you have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I will indicate that Mr. Mark Abbott with the Polsinelli firm is here tonight. He represents the developers. So if you have any questions of him, I'm sure he'd be glad to answer them. And I've already indicated that Mr. Webster's here this evening.
Fantastic. Are there any questions from council related to this? Seeing none, is there a motion for first reading?
First reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
An ordinance repealing ordinance number 9492 and approving the Third Amendment to the North Kansas City Destination Developers Tax Increment Financing Plan, making findings with respect thereto, authorizing certain actions by city officials, and containing a severability clause.
I move that bill number 7722 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9519.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Toll?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbi?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
An ordinance repealing ordinance number 9492 and approving the Third Amendment to the North Kansas City Destination Developers Tax Increment Financing Plan, making findings with respect thereto, authorizing certain actions by city officials, and containing a severability clause. Item 12, One North Development Issuance of Tax Increment Revenue Bonds, One North Millhouse Apartments Project. Bill number 7723, ordinance number 9520.
Kim?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm actually going to talk about 12 and 13 together since it's kind of step one and step two of this particular action. So we have quite a few people here. We have David Martin from Gilmore and Bell, which was kind of talked about before. They are the bond counsel from the city, as well as Matt Webster, who is the city's financial advisor, just in case you have any more in-depth questions that I might not be as well versed in. So what this is, now that the TIF plan amendment has been passed, we are able to issue debt on this particular project. The debt needed is what's going to help fund the grocery store. So what there will be is the very first one is the issuance of tax increment revenue bonds through the IDA, and the next item on your agenda is to actually activate that particular TIF parcel. It is the Millhouse Apartments, that is what is being transacted here. So the TIF revenue is what will pay back the issuance of debt or bond. If you have any other questions.
All right, any questions? There we go, Councilmember Clark.
And just, again, to reiterate, this is still connected directly to the development of the grocery store.
Yes,
So doing this still ties directly to the grocery store.
correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
First
Other
reading.
questions?
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, no, motion carries.
An ordinance approving tax issuance of tax increment, An ordinance approving the issuance of tax increment revenue bonds, One North Millhouse Apartments Project, Series 2022A by the Industrial Development Authority of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri, and authorizing certain documents and actions in connection therewith.
I move that Bill number 7723 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9520.
Second.
Any councilmember comments? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbi?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
All
An
right,
ordinance approving the issuance of tax increment revenue bonds, One North Millhouse Apartments Project, Series 2022A by the Industrial Development Authority of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri, and authorizing certain documents and actions in connection therewith. Item number 13, One North Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan, designation of project area and adoption of TIF, Project Area 2, Millhouse Apartments, Bill number 7724, ordinance number 9521.
all right, any additional comments related to this, or that was all covered, right? All right, any
First
questions from
reading.
council?
Second.
Seeing none, we got first reading, second, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, no, motion carries.
Okay. An ordinance approving and designating redevelopment Project Area 2, Millhouse Apartments of the Armor Road redevelopment area in the North Kansas City Destination Developers LLC Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan as a redevelopment project and adopting tax increment financing therein.
I move that Bill number 7724 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9521.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbi?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
An ordinance approving and designating redevelopment Project Area 2, Millhouse Apartments of the Armor Road redevelopment area in the North Kansas City Destination Developers LLC Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan as a redevelopment project and adopting tax increment financing therein. Item 14, transfer of projects and assignment of bond documents relating to Steel Ventures LLC and KC Specialty 2 LLC. Bill number 7725, ordinance number 9522.
Tom.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I'll try to make this brief as well, but you may have a number of questions. But the background was, several weeks ago, I received a telephone call from some lawyers representing what I'm going to call generically that we know around here as XL Tube, indicating to me that two of its entities here, Steel Ventures LLC and KC Specialty Tube LLC, both are subsidiaries of SPS Companies, Inc. And just so you know, the CEO of SPS is here this evening, Matt Crocker, right here behind me. So if you have questions of him, I'm sure he'll be glad to answer those questions. And moreover, and I think significantly, I think it's Mickey McNamara, right? Is here with Zeckelman Industries, I believe, is their Zeckelman Industries, Inc. And he's here, who is the representative of Zeckelman, the buyer of the assets of these two LLCs that we know are located here in North Kansas City. Suffice it to say, to their lawyers, I got some information that I hope each of you had the opportunity to read. It came out very late yesterday. I included it in my memo to you folks regarding the funding agreement. But this background information is helpful. One of the first things I told the lawyers on the phone is, folks, your timing isn't particularly great on making this announcement in light of Cerner and Oracle, okay? But suffice it to say this, from their lawyers, and I'll let Mr. McNamara perhaps speak to you about this. First question I had is, so are they shutting it down and moving out of town? And I subsequently got this in writing from them. Zeckelman's the largest in the, I guess, the largest in North America of producing these products. And when they acquire the facilities here in North Kansas City, I was told that they intend to expand its production capacity and footprint, and they wanted to expand their footprint in this region, and they will continue to employ the employment of all current employees at the North Kansas City plant, and in fact, plans to increase the output and level of business conducted out of the North Kansas City facility. Mainly what tonight is, the city has issued bonds 2 times, Chapter 100 bonds. Once in 2016, and the other, many of you, if not all of you, probably recall just a year or so ago in 2021. Not being a bond expert, but still having, a brain somewhat, one of my first contacts was with the bond counsel for the city, because I don't remember us ever doing this before, being requested to taking some tax exemption and transferring it to a buyer of assets. I just don't recall that. So I contacted David Martin, and he's here, so he can speak for himself. But the concept is, since he does bond stuff all the time, this is not unusual, okay? And they are, transfers regularly take place. But you may have, so tonight, the item before you would in fact allow this to take place. In fact, I took credit for the wonderful memo that's here that you got on this topic, but I have to admit, it was written for me by Mr. Martin to help us. So I don't know how you want to proceed, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on this. If we want to have perhaps Mr. Crocker, Mr. McNamara speak to you a little bit about what's going on. It may be however you want to
I think a
do
lot
it.
of the questions may be directed towards the representative from, I'm going to mispronounce this here, Zeckelman. So I guess if you, maybe not, maybe there's no questions at all. But I guess my question, if you want to step up at the podium here. It sounds like via email you already hit on a lot of the stuff I was probably going to ask towards. So I guess I'll just kind of ask you to affirm kind of the future use of the site and some of the employment things that he addressed.
Yeah, sure. Again, my name is Mickey McNamara. I'm the Executive Vice President of Zeckelman Industries. So we're making this acquisition for its people and its location, right? So they make HSS and standard pipe. We make HSS and standard pipe. We're the largest producer in North America. This location puts us closer to a lot of our key customers. It gives us a footprint in the Midwest that we don't have. And the people here are great. They've been a great competitor to us and a customer of ours for years. And so we know what they're capable of. We're excited. We're committed to hire all of them, and we're happy to do that. And quite honestly, Excel Tube is going to be a big part of our continued responsible growth. You know, by background, Zeckelman's a family-owned business. We're about $5 billion in revenue, $4 billion in assets. We have 17 facilities throughout North America, 15 of them in America, 2,700 employees, all with good wages and good benefits. We understand that the strength of our company is our people, and we empower them. It makes it a great place to work. We're proud of our multi-generational employees, and we're looking forward for this location to be a big part of that in the presently and in the future.
All right, Councilmember,
Any
questions? Councilmember Smith.
Welcome to North Kansas City.
Thanks.
Appreciate you coming out.
be here.
My question initially is actually directed toward Matt Webster or the bond counsel or Mr. Barzee. When we initially approved the package for XL Tube, there's a but-for test, right? We have to look at but for this tax incentive, but for this concession we're making, would this project move forward? That's correct? We set this up.
That is part of the city's economic development policy, yes.
Okay, and then, so we did that for them because they demonstrated the need.
Absolutely, and to be clear, in 2016, the city did not have an economic development
Correct.
policy.
Correct.
But they were very modest in their request for incentives, and the city was granted certain benefits as part of that, and so it was not a matter of controversy. In 2021, which is the most recent incentive package, I want to be clear, they were adding a new product line, the high-quality steel tubing mill, which is, I believe, now producing. And they were looking at various sites. And they basically told the staff, as part of the review that we did, that in return for the incentive that they requested, they would locate the mill here, and they did indeed do that. So that was, they passed the but-for in that regard.
Okay, I appreciate that. The concern that I have with this, and I don't have any, obviously, I don't know Zeckelman until yesterday. I'd finally learned about this. The but-for test for this transfer of the bonds is a little bit shaky to me when we're looking at a bigger company that has billions of dollars in revenue. Now, I don't know if we have to pass it per our policy.
No, I want to be real clear. So the reason we're here tonight is because the assignment in 2016 requires the consent of the council. But the fact that the assignment language is built into the agreements, I think tells you that something like this could happen.
Sure.
It has in fact not happened before in North Kansas City, which is why you haven't seen it before, because we've not had a Chapter 100 where somebody sold. What we look at, and the way Chapter 100 transactions are set up across the state, is as follows. Once somebody does something, if they complete the project and run it, they are deemed to have earned the incentive. We don't have a clawback policy. You know, either you earn the incentive or you don't earn the incentive. And in this case, if you stop production, the incentive would disappear because you're no longer utilizing the facility.
Sure.
So in that regard, I don't think there's any issue at all. It would be, I think, important to look at who is acquiring. Is it an empty pocket LLC? That's certainly not the case here. Is it? It in fact is the largest producer of this product line in the United States. And so I don't think they could be acquired by a stronger successor And for that reason, I looked at this as soon as I heard about it from Tom. I don't have any concerns about Zeckelman taking over these assets. I don't think it's anything but positive for the city. And if they came back later, I think they've done 5 or 6 expansions since the early 2000s as SPS has grown the product line here in North Kansas City. If they came back and asked for more incentives for yet another expansion, they would have to go through the regular process and prove that they needed it, and there was compelling interest for everybody, as Councilman Saper pointed out. I mean, that's just part of the process. But there's no looking back, in light of an assignment. The estoppel agreements, which apply to the 2021 transaction, are just sort of standard documents for real estate transfer. So I would say they've been added just so that there's no chance of having to come back and ask for them later.
Okay, and I understand this isn't uncommon. It's not uncommon to transfer a tax incentive with a sale, and it's probably part of the due diligence and the financials that were done with the, looking into buying the company. What I struggle with is when we looked at the financials that XL2 presented us and we made the decision to go forward with the incentive, that was under the understanding that it didn't make economic sense for them to locate here and build on that site without the incentives. That was the but-for test that I understood.
Right.
And now they're being purchased by a larger company with, as he just said, $5 billion in revenue. It doesn't sound to me like that incentive is necessary for future operations. So I don't understand, or I'm not certain where this leaves us as a governing body to decide if it's in the best interest of the city for more tax revenue. If we don't transfer this incentive, does that mean it goes fully onto the tax rolls under the new operator, or does it go back to the negotiating table because we pulled an incentive?
I'll let David Martin speak to the point. If you fail to pass this, I'm not sure that the result of that is that the tax abatement ends. I don't think. I mean, I think the tax abatement can be kept in place other ways.
Okay.
They're asking for the assignments that are built into the documents in order to avoid the problems. And
Sure.
with that, I'll turn it over to David.
Yeah, Dave Martin, Gilmore and Bell, bond counsel on these transactions. So these transactions are set up, and it's based on the idea that these companies will not allow themselves to be put into a position where they can't eventually make a sale of their assets. Now, in this particular circumstance with the 2021 bonds, that probably happened a lot sooner than anyone had anticipated. But the idea is, with the bond agreements that they enter into, they're not going to bind themselves into a situation where they can't make a sale of their assets in a manner that's advantageous to the company at some point down the road.
Sure.
And so these assignment provisions are meant to give the city the opportunity to do exactly what was done here, take a look at the new company, decide, is this really detrimental to the project that a new company is coming in to operate it, or is this new company going to, as is in this case, maintain employment and operate the project in the same manner as it had been up until this point?
Okay.
The result, if council were to decide tonight not to approve the documents that they have for the 2016 transaction, is they still have the ability to sell the company that's entered into that transaction, as opposed to selling the assets that are subject to that transaction. And they don't need consent in order to go that route. So they could get to the same place effectively by going around selling the company instead of the property.
Right.
And then,
They continue to own it, lease it back, abatement stays.
exactly, right. The effect would be the same, the route would be a little bit different.
Sure, and again, to be clear, I have no hostility toward Zeckelman. I'm just trying to understand our options and what we're presented with. It makes sense that you frame it in, we can now take a look at the company and see if it will be detrimental. That makes sense. I appreciate that. Okay, so I had one other question I don't remember. Go to somebody else.
I'll knock one out here.
Yeah.
Just for timeline's sake here, this shows this lease was dated June 1st, 2021, I believe, and then the bond agreement. When did these conversations begin regarding a potential acquisition? Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Councilman. So my name is Matt Crocker. I'm CEO of SPS Companies, which, as was mentioned previously, owns Steel Ventures, which is better known and we speak to as XL Tube. So to answer your question, we began some internal conversations about what we felt was the best path forward for XL's future in early June. But
2022, or this year?
This year, yes,
Okay,
I'm
okay,
sorry, yes.
Okay. That's-
Of 2022.
I was about to say, man.
And so we retained, we have advisors and retained advisors in 2022 to move forward with this transaction.
No, that was, yeah, just trying to see
Yeah.
the relationship and dates there in time.
And there have been several comments. I want to mention that apologies for the late notice. A lot of that was driven by us because Friday we informed the employees of this transaction, and it was very important for me that they hear it from me and us. And unfortunately, this is a fairly public venue, and so we were a little concerned about having it on your agenda prior to us having an opportunity to communicate directly to the employees. So I apologize for that. That's my fault. So,
All right.
any other questions for me while I'm up here? I can.
There you go, Councilmember Smith.
Oh, no, I didn't have a question specific for you, but congrats on the big sale.
Thank you.
I don't know what's next for you, but that's exciting for you.
Yeah, and again, I just want to reiterate, we spend a lot of time balancing value versus looking at what's best for our employees. We came to the humble conclusion that we've taken XL Tube as far as we can as an organization, and the best thing for the employees and the operation is to move to someone like a Zeckelman, who, as you've heard, has tremendous resources to move it forward. And we did a lot of vetting of the people in the organization as well as obviously their financial resources, but it's a challenging day for us because we've had 20 years of seeing some tremendous growth, and thank you for your help with that. One thing that was mentioned was the 2021 bonds and how soon we've done this. We've actually already hired, I believe in that commitment, we said we would hire 13 people. We've already hired 16 people with that business. So we are ahead of that plan, and thank you for your support. And I'm very excited about what the future of XL Tube and the facility there has under Zeckelman. So, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Councilmember Saper.
My concern is that Zeckelman has, 17 plants across the country? Is that what you, and overseas?
14 pipe and tube,
And how many overseas?
one in Canada. That's it.
One in Canada?
Yeah, that's it.
I guess my concern
It's
is.
in Windsor, basically, Detroit.
Okay. To the extent that any or all of those might be newer facilities that might easily.
Actually, it would go the other way. We're buying this business for this location. Like, it's more likely that we would move business from another facility here than business from here to another facility. We're not contemplating that at all.
Okay, that sometimes happens.
It does.
There's a little whipsawing.
It does. We've done that. We've done that. We're not doing that here. That's not this, we're going to expand at this location.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, now Councilmember Smith.
Okay.
Give the other chance.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate what you said there. I understand, like, logistically, this is a great location to be for moving product around. In the event that the unlikely happens, and this, I think, would be another bond council type question, but in the event the unlikely happens, you mentioned there is no clawback provision. I think Matt said that. If Zeckelman ends up, for some reason, not continuing operations here, is there a clawback provision that we can then rescind?
So I'll let David follow up, but I mean, the general rule is if you cease operations and they're no longer producing anything, the abatement goes away because they've changed the use.
Is that a general rule, or is that like in these
It depends. It depends on what happens with the facility, but I'll let David add on. Again, it's what happened with Cerner. The likely result of that is going to be the end of some or all of those abatements.
Sure.
Now, getting money back that you've abated away, that doesn't work that way
Right.
because the clawback. But it would be the same. It could be the same thing, but it depends ultimately on the circumstances. But with that, I'll let Dave.
Sure.
comment.
And I would have to look back at the specific documents on each of these deals, but the general theme, as Matt was saying, is if there's a complete failure to operate the project for which the documents were entered into at the property, then typically you can find an event of default under the bond documents and a way to terminate the abatement.
Okay. And to be clear on that, since I don't have the full legal everything, and I couldn't read it anyway, we did this for specialty tubing, for high-end motorcycle related, like very nice. Is that going to be the use of this facility, or is it going to be to produce the same sort of tubing that is produced in the main facility?
Yeah, so, interesting, good question, actually. We're not in that business, but
Okay.
we're very excited about it.
Okay, so you're going to
We
plan
are
to
gonna
continue
continue.
that one?
We are, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
In theory, if that hadn't continued, just so I understand, because we'll have more of this pop up over the years, if they were to not do what we approve, the specialty tubing, is that a change of use, or is that a similar enough?
So that typically would not be dissimilar enough to trigger an event of default. The events of default are tied to items like complete failure to operate on the property. Cessation of operations is the legalese. So simply using the same facility to produce a slightly different product wouldn't be an event of default.
Okay, thank you. And then the last thing from me is, looking into the future, I have no problem with how this is unfolded. I don't think there was any backroom dealing. I think this was all above board. But going forward, is there a way to enter into these types of agreements where if the property is then sold or changes hands in a time frame, the abatement falls off? So that we're not continuing to abate a property to a much larger entity that was the purchasor, so that we keep, if we're doing this, incentivizing local companies to stay local, and then in 2, 3, 5 years, that property is sold, can there be an end written in? Is that something that we can do?
There's nothing legally that keeps the city from doing that. I would say that it will be very difficult to entice a company to enter into that agreement. We've been back and forth on transfer provisions with different companies over the years, and especially with larger industrial companies or companies that are operating a large industrial business of some sort, whether it be a smaller company or a nationwide company. It's very difficult to get them to agree to that type of provision. Again, that doesn't mean that you can't start the bargaining position at that point.
It's a value add to their asset if they want to sell it. Makes sense, but usually it's people coming to us asking for it, so it puts us in something to consider with a economic development policy. That is all from me.
A lot of things on the radar for that update. He's done. Anything over here? I see no more.
First
Anything
reading.
else this way?
Second.
Okay. First reading, second. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries.
An ordinance approving the assignment of certain Chapter 100 bond documents from Steel Ventures LLC and KC Specialty Tube LLC, and authorizing and approving certain documents and actions in connection therewith by the city of North Kansas City, Missouri.
I move that Bill number 7725 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9522.
Second.
Other council member comments? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbi,
Yes.
Councilmember Graves.
Yes.
An ordinance approving the assignment of certain Chapter 100 bond documents from Steel Ventures LLC and KC Specialty Tube LLC, and authorizing and approving certain documents and actions in connection therewith by the city of North Kansas City, Missouri.
Number 15, ordinance calling for general election to be held on April 4th, 2023. Bill number 7720, ordinance number 9517.
First reading.
Crystal, did you have anything to add to this?
6 positions
go.
up for election.
All in
Goodness.
favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries.
An ordinance calling for general election to be held on April 4th, 2023, for the purpose of electing one qualified council member from each of the city's 4 wards, one qualified council member from Ward 3 to serve a 1-year term, and one qualified council member from Ward 4 to serve a 1-year term in the city of North Kansas City, Missouri.
I move that Bill number 7720 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9517.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbi,
Yes.
Councilmember Gray.
Yes.
An ordinance calling for a general election to be held on April 4th, 2023, for the purpose of electing one qualified council member from each of the city's 4 wards, one qualified council member from Ward 3 to serve a 1-year term, and one qualified council member from Ward 4 to serve a 1-year term in the city of North Kansas City, Missouri.
There we go. Number 16, ordinance imposing a local park tax of 1/4% of the receipts from the sale of retail within the city of North Kansas City, Missouri. Bill number 7721, ordinance number 9518. Anybody? No, kidding. No, Victoria. Please, unless we just want to get this one going.
I'd first read it.
Do you have a very brief summary here? What do we got?
Hey, I was just going to say, I was here in August to present all the benefits it would be to the city and the park department to pursue a 1/4-cent sales tax. And tonight, we're just asking you to approve the ordinance to place it on the April 2023 ballot.
First reading.
Councilmember Graves.
One just question, is it just passed with a simple majority? Like if they're 50
On
plus
the
percent?
ballot, yes,
Yeah.
it's a simple majority.
Okay.
It is simple majority.
So it would just be the residents of North Kansas City
Correct.
voting on this, just for
That's
clarification purposes for the general public? And the purpose of this, if you guys didn't watch the earlier work session, is to get off of the gaming funds, using gaming funds for everything. So make them more self-sufficient. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Saper.
And we should point out that this is also more necessary now. It's because of the surtax reduction that was approved by the voters of Clay County. That will reduce the revenue coming into the park
Correct.
board. And so this is increasingly important at this time.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Smith.
One quick question on ballot language. So this is in bold here in the memo. This is the proposed ballot language. Are we able to tweak that at all? No, it has to
No.
be.
You can add something to the end of it.
Uh-huh.
If you want an explanation, the statute allows for that.
Yeah.
But it says it shall be this, and then you can add some other words, so you don't have to have, sometimes people explain it more like it's going to be used to build a new ball diamond in a swimming pool or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean,
I was thinking something along the lines of, because 1/4% is tough to conceptualize. I like the 25 cents per $100 spent. That helps put it in real dollars. I don't know if that helps or hurts.
well, all I can say is this. I looked at what a lot of other cities have done, and 100% of them follow the state statute the way it says it in there, and it's either a half or a quarter, or it could be a 16th, but it can be anything under, it has to be a half or under.
But he's simply referring to an additional note at the bottom.
Yeah, the
further
additional
explaining what
note,
exactly that means.
25
People in
cents
very
per
clear language. Yes.
$100. And then, again, just suggestion, a note of how much this will add to our park's bottom line, because I think, no.
I would not do that because it's such a volatile stream of revenue that if it ever fell under that amount, I would be worried about the ramifications of that.
Interesting, because usually there's a financial ramification tied to a ballot initiative. It's projected that it'll add or.
You might be able to put a bracket on it, but again, if we were to have a recession like in '08,
Sure.
it could fall underneath that revenue, and there could be some really serious legal ramifications from that.
And I see what you're saying, because I was certainly critical of Clay County.
Yeah,
Putting
they
any sort
just,
of fiscal
yeah,
note on there.
absolutely. It was complete nonsense, and I want to criticize that publicly as much as I can. And so to add something on here that says this is the benefit, this is the tangible benefit to our residents, feels like it would help people understand. Because again,
you
1/4
could
of 1%, is that $10,000 or is that $1 million?
I would be hesitant on putting an actual dollar value, again, because it's such a volatile source of revenue. However, I think if you wanted to add some kind of definition language in there, but I would refrain from putting a dollar value.
So potentially like an intended use, I guess,
No.
it would be one direction.
I'm not advocating this at all. The park people are
then
shooting
I'll
me,
give you-
but it does advocate, it does allow that you could say, put a sunset provision on there. See, everybody.
Well, now we're wading into a whole different category here. Let's.
No, but I'm just telling you that that is certainly allowed.
Yeah.
No,
Let's not upset the crowd here.
I'm more thinking about ways to help people understand the magnitude of this, because at 1/4% doesn't tell me anything unless unless I've been through these work sessions. I know that we're looking at what, $745,000, I think is the last estimate I saw. Something in 800, so like in the ballpark, again, doesn't have to be a specific number, but I've always seen projections like this on ballots, except when they don't, or like with the use, or the surtax, when they want to hide how big the amount is, and they just leave it off. So-
Right, and so once this actually, you approve the ordinance, that's when we're gonna get to work and start making all the promotional, talking, educational pieces.
Informational and education.
Educational.
And I appreciate that, but people are absolutely uninformed on these measures, and that's the frustration, because they get to a ballot that they've never done they see this and they're like, taxes going up, bonk, not gonna support it, and I wanna make sure it's clear the benefit. So,
Councilmember Saber.
Yes, I think that the campaign to pass it will make all of this clear.
The education.
I do understand what Jesse is saying.
Educational
it does not
materials
matter.
that will be done.
It makes some difference, but you take the Clay County surtax as an example. The school district put out a ton of information. Chief Hargis testified in front of the Clay County commissioners. Nobody heard this. Very few people paid attention to it, and thus here we are. And I just don't want this to go the same way, because taxes down, good, taxes up, bad is the general voting tenor. And I want people to be very clear when they get to the ballot, if they've done no homework, that this is the benefit to the city.
Oh, Tom looks like he's got something to add here.
I'm extremely paranoid and sensitive about this because when I first started representing the city some 40-plus years ago, another law firm at the time had handled a bond issue to put in storm sewers in our PID. The ballot language and the notice by this big law firm, who will remain anonymous, ended up being incorrect. The businesses in the PID did not like it. They filed a lawsuit. The city lost. They went out, they redid the election, and it failed the second time around. I'm very hesitant to put anything in that doesn't come out of a state statute. That's why they put the language in the statute. If you want an explanation what it's going to be used for or something, they certainly allow things like that. But I am very paranoid about it because of what happened 40-plus years ago. And to this day, we don't have that kind of a system in the PID.
Okay, did I call on you yet? Okay. There, so long there, I was losing track. Okay, further. Well, let me ask on timeline on that then real quick. So if council was interested in adding additional language, is there even an opportunity to do that at this point, or are we too late in the game?
He must have been too late in the game to add additional language.
Oh, you mean right now?
When does this have to be finalized?
Yeah,
for this
Crystal
ballot
may
question
know
for
that
the
better
April
than I
election?
do. I don't think that this has to be in until like December
No, January.
oh, is it January?
It's 2
Oh,
weeks.
'cause it's a question.
It's 2 weeks
Yeah.
after the closing of
Filing?
filing. I have to have everything certified up to the.
Okay,
There you go.
so what do we do? We vote for it. You just want to vote for it as is. Okay, there was actually a motion in a second, right?
Yeah.
Correct. I will say yes.
Did I have a second?
There
Second.
was. It was.
There you
somewhere.
go.
Who was it? There we go. I remember there was one, kind of. All right, with that,
So
all
is
those
this is the language. If we vote yes now, the language is locked.
in favor, please say yes.
Well, no, that's not true until this is submitted. You can amend this ordinance 2 weeks from now. Until she turns it into the county, you have the right, you could repeal it. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can still legally do. That I can tell you.
All right, let's knock out this vote here. All in favor, please say yes, and then we'll open more comments. Opposed, no. We'll say that the motion, first reading carries. Okay, now we're still very
Still
open for
discussing?
discussion here.
Okay, good.
Councilmember Till.
Because there were a couple things discussed, one of them being the benefit, but the other being what the real cost is to help people fully understand how much it is. Would it be possible, can we talk about those things separately and possibly add one of those two things? I know that you're opposed to discussing what the overall benefit could be because you don't want to be tied down to a number, but the 1/4% is something we can actually state. So can we discuss adding that? 25 cent per $100?
Can
I
you
would
read
agree
your
to that.
proposed ballot language to me? The way that you kind of have it in here, so it'd be, shall the city of North Kansas City, Missouri impose a sales tax of 1/4% and then 1/4% in parens for the purpose of providing funding for local parks for the municipality? Can you verbally tell me what your addition to the tail end of that would be?
It was in some sort of, right here, the financial impact on the consumer would equal an additional quarter, 0.25 cents per 100 spent on qualifying sales. It's right there in the bottom paragraph of that memo. Hey, and the same thing, can we just put that last paragraph in the ballot language with the 875,000 annually?
We can,
It's right there on the public document. You're held to it now, Kim.
No, it is, however, when it is passed, like I said, my fear would be if it ever dipped below that.
Well, that estimated would be doing a heavy lift then.
Yeah, the word estimate, I mean, they can't, how
I feel
hard
like
can
it's projected on ballots all the time.
It is
says
all the time. This is
projected.
common. I mean, round it off to, I don't know, 800. I have no idea, but I feel like that impact is going to make a much bigger difference because I would have literally no idea what this would mean.
All right, is there any sort of actual,
I just want to see that tagged onto the end of that
I
last
think you could
paragraph.
easily put the first sentence on there. I think that one would be easy. I'll be honest, I think I would have to get some outside legal counsel understanding before.
And that's fine.
I would very much so worry. These things have been challenged in the courts before. I mean, and we have lost here in this city before for that. So I think I would want to maybe have Mr. Barzee reach out to some of his colleagues to see if there's any tales we should be understanding before we move forward.
That would be fine.
okay.
So would
is
it be
there any
possible
addition-
to add the part you're comfortable with, pass it as is, go ahead and ask outside legal counsel and bring that information back?
Okay.
you know what?
So.
Yes, I mean.
So the motion would be, the motion would be to continue to pass as is, as presented to council
Oh.
tonight, and looking for additional
Well,
information.
no, with the addition of the part
The
they're
first
comfortable with.
sentence.
It's,
Are we doing an
you
amendment,
know,
or
it
someone's got to
would
make a motion?
probably be just, you know, rather than amending and everything, it'd be easier just to
Bring it
Hold
all-
this.
pull this off. You don't have to table it. We'll bring it back on December the 6th. and
We already
we'll-
have a first and a second on a first reading, so I probably would.
That's
take a- I
okay.
probably would take a motion and a second and a vote on a table,
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd move to table.
because I'm not sure where we are. Okay, so there's a motion to table. Is there a second to table?
A second?
Okay, there's second table. Further council member discussion.
I'd rather just pass it as is. Just
All right,
move
Councilmember
on.
Graves. Okay, further comments. All right, so the motion we will be voting on right now is not a vote for or against the ordinance. This is simply to table it to the next meeting. If you want to pass it tonight, then you would vote no on this. If you'd want to hold until next meeting.
I mean, the
you would vote
overall goal is
Yes.
for this thing, we're trying to help it to pass
Yes.
once it reaches the ballot. So I don't want anyone to think that we're questioning it because we just don't want it to go well.
Right.
I think the whole idea is like to make sure the ducks are in a row, because we saw what just happened on the last ballot.
Well, it's not even
be too-
like helping it to pass, it's like making sure it's.
All right, we
clear.
gotta get this back
that
in order here.
everyone has
Okay,
their
hold on,
education
hold
on.
Hold on, we're gonna go back to being recognized here. We're going all over the place. Councilmember Roberts.
You guys have a lot of fear that this will not pass. I think parks and police pass every time.
Okay,
And I do not think we should table this. I think we should pass it as is and let the education go out there.
Councilmember Saper.
Yes, we can also put an amendment at a later date to this. Is that correct, Counselor? Thank you. So there's no downside to passing it tonight.
Councilmember Palumbi.
I'm also with the majority in trying to pass this tonight because, as Victoria alluded to, the sooner you pass this, the earlier they can begin the education process and getting the word out there. So I think if we table this into the holiday season, we're just delaying the inevitable.
That's
Victoria,
fine.
you're
All right,
right
further
there. Is that how
councilmember
you feel?
comments?
Can we, I'll,
Okay,
I'd
Councilmember
withdraw, I'll withdraw the motion to table.
Who's the second? You don't have to withdraw your second first.
I withdraw my second.
Okay,
Withdraw the move to table.
okay, we are back to
Yep.
the motion for the second reading would be our next action. Councilmember comments.
She's
All
got to
right.
read it.
And, okay, now, And then we'll change our mind. Go ahead.
An ordinance imposing a local park tax of 1/4 of 1% of the receipts from the sale at retail within the city of North Kansas City, Missouri, subject to the approval by the voters of the city and calling for submission to the voters of North Kansas City, Missouri at an election to be held on April 4th, 2023, a proposition authorizing the City Council of North Kansas City to impose a city local park sales tax of 1/4 of 1% for the purpose of funding and improving local parks.
I move that Bill number 7721 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9518.
Second.
Final chance. All right, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbi?
Yes.
And Councilmember Graves.
Yes.
An ordinance imposing a local park tax of 1/4 of 1% of the receipts from the sale at retail within the city of North Kansas City, Missouri, subject to the approval by the voters of the city and calling for submission to the voters of North Kansas City, Missouri at an election to be held on April 4th, 2023, a proposition authorizing the City Council of North Kansas City to impose a city local parks sales tax of 1/4 of 1% for the purpose of funding and improving local parks.
Thank you. Number 17, an ordinance adopting and approving a cooperative agreement with Clay County, Liberty, Gladstone, Excelsior Springs, Smithville, Kearney, and the city of North Kansas City for the purchase of subscription from Replica, Inc., Bill number 7726, ordinance number 9523. Mike.
Ready? So this has resulted, over the last few months, especially the new county administrator started putting meetings together, quarterly meetings with cities within the county, just a Clay County managers meeting to build relations back. From that came this demonstration of Replica. It's transportation and land use software. It talks about movement patterns within the built environment, key transportation and land use questions. One of the interesting things, Kim and I sat through the presentation, but very interesting. It shows you not only where our residents are going to work or going to for habits, travel, whether or shopping or whatever, but also who's coming in, origin and destination info. It also talks about different modes of transportation. There's a lot of information that it offers, not only just for North Kansas City, but regional. Now, as part of this, the county has proposed that interested cities kind of enter into this agreement to help with the subscription. The subscription for it is $40,000 a year, but based on our population within the county, our cost $1,985.63 per year. It's a 2-year agreement. There's 6 cities that are interested in this, along with the county. So based on that, we wanted to bring it before you. Statute does require, because it's a cooperative agreement, that it be brought by ordinance.
Fantastic. Councilmember question. Councilmember Saper.
I support this, and it also begs the question about having other kinds of purchasing agreements among other cities in the county, and maybe outside of this county. That works in many other industries, organizations, and structures, and it would enhance our bargaining power and maybe reduce our costs.
Yes, and there are areas that we currently take advantage of that through MARC, other programs, especially with public safety, both police and fire, but others as well. But you're absolutely correct. I think that's the nice thing about that. The county administrator is working towards, like I said, building these relations back and working together, seeing how we can help each other out.
The county continues to erode their own revenue sources. Do you believe they'll be able to continue to fund this into the future?
That we'll see.
I just had to ask. Thank you. Councilmember Graves.
I support this. Traffic and parking down here is a situation, as everyone is aware. I just had a quick question, though. I've noticed a couple times this evening, we talk about partnerships with Gladstone, Liberty, things like that, which are in Clay County. Why don't we partner more with Riverside, for example, who's also right next door? Is it just because they're in a separate county, or is there other reason for that?
We can and we do. I think the police have, we have cooperative agreements, mutual aid agreements, which are the same thing, don't we, with Platte County, et cetera, Chief? Can you, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like
It's not
Riverside's more
uncommon. It's not
logical
uncommon.
than Liberty or Gladstone. I didn't know if it was because they're in a different county that prevented us from doing these agreements with them. So
Hearing how you originated this was via a county meeting, so it makes sense that this one in particular was Clay County folks.
Correct.
But could be always expanded to Platte County folks as well.
Correct.
If that was something, okay.
If agreeable.
Thank
First
you.
reading?
Motion for first reading.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, opposed, no. That motion carries.
An ordinance adopting and approving a cooperative agreement by and among Clay County, Liberty, Gladstone, Excelsior Springs, Smithville, Kearney, and the city of North Kansas City, Missouri for purchase of a subscription from Replica Incorporated.
I move that bill number 7726 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9523.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Palumby,
Yes.
Councilmember Graves.
Yes.
An ordinance adopting and approving a cooperative agreement by and among Clay County, Liberty, Gladstone, Excelsior Springs, Smithville, Kearney, and the city of North Kansas City, Missouri for purchase of a subscription from Replica Incorporated. Number 18, approving accounts due and payable by the city through November 11th, 2022. Bill number 7727, ordinance number 9524.
First reading?
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, no. Motion
An
carries.
ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through November 11th, 2022.
I move that bill number 7727 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9524.
Second?
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Toll,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Palumby.
Yes.
Councilmember Graves.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through November 11th, 2022.
Boom, staff comments. Mike, what do we got this evening?
Other than the items that were in the packet, I think Victoria has
Saw her
something to
queuing up
say.
there.
But also, I want to let you all know that after the meeting, we do have cupcakes in honor of Councilmember Palumby.
Hey,
her
you stole my one
service,
comment.
appreciation.
So I just wanted to remind everyone and invite those at home that the mayor's tree lighting is this Friday at 6 o'clock, right on the corner here. We have Briarcliff Elementary Choir singing. The mayor will say a few words. I think he has some helpers helping him switch on the light. And then we actually have a Broadway singer, Talia Gross, who will be performing at 6:30. A reindeer exhibition and no reindeer rides. So, sorry. And then we have crumble cookies and cocoa.
Are we gonna put some signs to remind them? I mean, do we need to pass an ordinance that says you can't ride the
Probably
reindeer?
just keep Zach away.
Okay.
And then on Saturday, Sunday, we have the Mistletoe Market at our center, and it's got about 27 different makers. So, fun place to come get unique gift ideas.
A lot of exciting things. Thank you. Anthony. No, I'm kidding. Oh, Crystal.
I just want to remind all of you that December 6th will be the first day that you can file for reelection if you choose to do so.
Now I'll go back over here. Thank you. Anthony. Nothing? How was the first snow removal? How were we prepared? Was that
It went well. We
Yeah.
pre-treated it
There.
a little bit with salt brine, but the temperature of the pavement was such that we didn't really have any issues.
There you go. Fantastic. All right. Mike, anything else? That's it. Let's do it up here. Councilmember Saper.
No comments thank
Thank you, Councilmember Toll.
I thought our work session was really helpful for us as council and for the city. So thank you to all the staff that put in the hard work to present that. I know you're doing the hard work every day, but it's really helpful to check in with us and to check in with the city, and we can see where we're going. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
Anna, it's been real. I think Liz said it all. You've done a great job. This coming election, apparently we're going to have 6 of 8 seats potentially up for grabs. So if you know somebody who wants to run, December 6th is the time. And I just want to double down on ballot language. Adam said that parks and police always pass. I would push back slightly on that because we just had a surtax that would remove funding from police, fire, schools, hospitals. That passed with flying colors due to very likely the ballot language. So I just have a lot of concern with how things are on the ballot now. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on those things. That's all from me.
We should note it actually failed here in North Kansas City.
It sure did.
We were 2 of the 3 precincts where that failed were right here at the YMCA. Councilmember Fitzgerald.
No comments.
Beautiful. Councilmember Roberts.
Yeah. I was going to say, it didn't pass here because I think people in North Kansas City read the ballots and understand what's happening. I got nothing else except for Ana La Vista, baby.
How long you been working on that one? Yeah, I guess we're adjourned. No kidding. Councilmember Clark. Here, should he drop
Ana La Vista. I can't top that. Thank you, Kim, for the work you're continuing to do to complete the grant application for River Forest Park.
Yeah, we was getting a little
Whoa,
singing in.
really? That's exciting. She said it's out tomorrow. We should have a party. Okay. I also look forward to the talented and capable staff and Parks Board members in creating the educational piece for the ordinance we voted on tonight for that tax. And Anna, it's been real. I've watched you grow here on council in these years that we've sat next to each other. Thanks for the pins, the water, the handholds. No, I wish you well, Dr. Council Member Palumbi. Thanks.
Dr. Palumbi.
Okay, well, you guys are going to make me cry, but I just wanted to say how lucky I've been to be able to work with this amazing council, and I wouldn't trade any of you. I kind of jumped into public office on a whim, not knowing what I was going to get into, and I couldn't have asked for a better group of people up here to work with and a better staff to kind of walk me through what it's like to be in office. So thanks so much for everything, guys, and I really look forward to seeing what you guys do with the city.
Thank you. Councilmember Graves.
Okay, so you guys know I always have something, or most of the time. I got 3 things real quick. First of all, I love comments from the public. Gentleman Bert Knox, I think was his name. He brought up something that is interesting because I happened to coincidentally look this up earlier. I've had people complain to me about the track around Norclay, behind the Norclay building. There's also like a practice football field inside there. I've had people from the public say that the track should be open to the public. So I know these things are not 100% accurate. Got on the county, looked at the parcel viewer, and sure enough, it looks like the majority of the track is owned by the city of North Kansas City, but not all of it. Looks like a portion thereof is owned by the school.
Correct.
You guys are signaling to me.
And we do have an agreement related to that.
Mr. Pasaper brought that up here a couple of years or so ago. We pulled
what
out the old agreement,
Oh,
and
Victoria's
sure enough,
got
we
the-
have an agreement with them.
So the latest update on that is we have talked to the school. They have removed the chain. So the gate closest to Norclay Building on the north side where the signage is unlocked 24/7.
Cool. So people from the public, like if my kids want to practice running on the track, they can run?
Yes.
Very
That-
cool.
What was that location one more time? Is that like in that parking lot area, or
Yes.
that's not off Clark?
That
Ferguson,
little-
That's back.
That little parking lot area right off of Clark, right across from the tennis courts.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh,
There's a
that
gate
little parking lot.
closest
Got
to
it.
the
Okay, I
building.
know. Yep.
Yeah.
I got one
it is
son that
unlocked.
likes kicking field goals and another kid that runs track, so.
So it's not available when there's any kind of school activity going on, but other than that, it's available.
Very cool. Well, thank you, Mr. Knox, for bringing that to our attention. If people are unleashing their dogs, do we have a dog ordinance against that? So I'm going to go ahead and assume that Mr. Knox, I would recommend calling animal control if that's something like that's going down. Chief? loose dogs running around this guy's house?
Yes, Mr. Knox has already made that complaint with the department, and it is being addressed already.
Thank you.
Been passed on to animal control.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's what's great about living in Northtown. We're very responsive. And then secondly, we're talking about ballot language, all this ballot stuff. The good people have legalized marijuana. And I brought this up months ago. Let's go ahead and please, as soon as humanly possible, we still handcuff people and arrest them for marijuana here in North Kansas City if you do not have a medical card. And I would like that, please, I don't know who needs to put this on an agenda, but can we get rid of this instantly, like yesterday? And then third, there's something else that Mr. Saper, Fitzgerald, and I was brought to our attention, and there is an ordinance that passed in Kansas City, Missouri, that I would like to look at for North Kansas City. We have a lot of development going on here in Northtown, and I want to make sure that it's done in a responsible manner and that the people working on the sites are taken care of and paid a decent wage, and that they're being paid for, we don't want people that are general laborers doing electrical work and getting paid $10 an hour. And believe it or not, there's even human trafficking taking place. I know that sounds extreme, but there's evidence of this taking place here in the metro by some of these developers hire subcontractors that do things that are not always ethical. So it's a long conversation. I would like to have a work session on this, I'll speak for Fitzgerald and Saper. Something else that was brought up tonight in a separate discussion regarding ExcelTube, they mentioned clawbacks. So sometimes if you give, a developer economic incentives to do something, to do a project, and they're doing things that are unethical and perhaps against, our ordinance, you can then start removing the subsidies that you had given them for the project. And then there would need to be some sort of oversight into such construction. And I know this sounds like a big deal, which it is. So there's people, I would invite, there's a guy, Councilman Kevin O'Neill, who's a Kansas City councilman from the Northland, who worked on this very diligently in KCMO, and him and some other people are willing to come present to us at a upcoming work session. So I'd like to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's my list. There we go. Councilmember Palumbi, it's been an honor to work with you up here and a privilege to get to know you over your time here on council. And just wish you the best in your future in warm, sunny Florida. So thank you for everything you've done up here. I now have we got to do our presentation now before we conclude the meeting. Yeah, we got to do that. Take the 10,000.
Photo of Anna in Missouri. I know.
All right, there we go. With that, the next item before we adjourn is, as Crystal noted, don't forget there's cupcakes in back to celebrate Councilmember Palumbi. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Opposed? No. We're adjourned.